celebrate our meeting today with the friends in the whole world. I'm truly excited. I don't even know how to put together a few words. If the friends wouldn't be with me, I wouldn't know which way to even run away. I want to remind everyone, as I remind myself, that I want to be together with you in this great quest. And I hope that we will unite our hearts and our intentions so that we can support the whole world and get closer and closer to the Creator. Let's work together, friends.
Rabash writes, we must remember that the society was established on the basis of love of others. So each member would receive from the group the love of others and hatred of himself. And seeing that his friend is straining to annul his self and to love others, would cause everyone to be integrated in their friend's intentions. It turns out that if the society is made, let's say, 10 friends, then each will be included of 10 forces that engage in self-annulment and self-hatred and love of others. We're going to read it again. We must remember that the society was established on the basis of love of others. So each member would receive from the group the love of others and hatred of himself. And seeing that his friend is straining to annul his self and to love others, this would cause everyone to be integrated in their friend's intentions. It turns out that if the society was founded on 10 friends, then each would be incorporated from 10 forces that engage in annulment of self, hatred of self, and love of others.
Ita?
Sì, grazie amici, è stato sempre bellissimo essere insieme a voi. In effetti soltanto...
Yes, thank you, friends. It's always so beautiful to be together with you. This together is enough to give all of us the power to overcome all the obstacles and succeed in defeating our ego and feeling the love towards the friend, this bestowal. It is truly a privilege to be in the preparation for this lesson and to prepare it for the whole world Kli. Now let's go to Petach Tikva for another excerpt.
Rabash writes, the most important is the prayer. That is, one must pray to the Creator to help him go above reason, meaning that the work should be with gladness, as though he has already been rewarded with the reason of Kedusha. And what joy he would feel then. Likewise, he should ask the Creator to give him this power, so he can go above the reason of the body. In other words, although the body does not agree to this work in order to bestow, he asks the Creator to be able to work with gladness, as is suitable for one who serves a great king. He does not ask the Creator to show the greatness of the Creator and then he will work gladly. Rather, he wants the Creator to give him joy in the work of above reason, that it will be as important to a person as if he already has reason. We're going to read it again. The most important is the prayer. That is, one must pray to the Creator to help him go above reason. Meaning that the work should be with gladness, as though he has already been rewarded with reason of Kedusha. And what joy he would feel then. Likewise, he should ask the Creator to give him this power so he can go above the reason of the body. In other words, although the body does not agree to this work in order to bestow, he asks the Creator to be able to work with gladness, as is suitable for one who serves a great king. And he does not ask the Creator to show the greatness of the Creator, and then he will work gladly. Rather, he wants the Creator to give him joy in the work above reason, that it will be as important to a person as if he already has reason.
Workshop attivo. Parlate tra voi con gioia dell'importanza del lavoro del Borea.
Active workshop. Discuss between you in gladness about the importance of the Creator's work. Discuss between you in gladness the importance of the Creator's work.
Well, I think we all experienced the feelings that you suddenly grasp that what the friends in the group are doing here every day is actually the only work there is to be done. And the whole world is basically inanimate in all the noise. How much can we talk about this? It's a matter of feeling, but we're all somewhat included in it. The work of the Creator is not some labor that is better or more exalted than. It's simply, in my eyes, the only work that is truly capable of bringing some force of benefit to our world.
The work of the Creator is the only thing that we need to realize, to implement in terms of our free choice. This is how we are being taken blindly through all the currents of life in all our thoughts. And investing in a 10 means to actually come out of yourself. The whole world is looking for how can we exit ourselves, rise above ourselves. So the work of the Creator is the only place when you can actually reach equivalence of form with this force.
Correct. It's really to merit to even be called and feel that you're a servant of the Creator is the greatest thing. And the question is whether it really evokes joy or not. It probably doesn't always, so that's why we have to pray and to ask the Creator to give us the desire to serve the Creator above reason, above our feeling, above our egoistic, private feeling. And the joy will be a certain kind of a compass, an examination, whether we really want above reason truly, or it's just like that. We're just cheating ourselves. So, let's ask for joy.
Exactly. We will ask for joy. we need to raise a request that we will simply be able to serve the Creator in gladness because of His greatness, even though within reason we can detect that the body is resisting it. But this precisely gives us the opportunity to devote to Him in a common prayer, that He will give us the opportunity to rise above our reason and discover true joy from the work of bestowal. So this lesson, this entire lesson is an opportunity to be in prayer, and we will feel the joy from the most true engagement there is in life.
When you say the work of the Creator, I get a little confused because who's working, me? Or am I working Him or serving Him? Or it's Him, it's all His work, and we're just observers. David talked about free choice. It seems to me like maybe connected somewhat. But let's say we're talking about me serving the Creator or working for the Creator. And this work of mine is the only thing that is important and exists. If I ask this eternal question of the point in the heart of why do I exist? Yes, Baal Sulam kind of inverts it to who I delight in this life. And if it's a person is really asking himself, in what way am I beneficial? In what way am I good? So there's nothing higher or more important than to be good to the Creator and to do that which is for His benefit. It's the most important place and the only place that exists. All the rest is just not very worthwhile.
Well, so we serve the Creator around the world, and we have Zohar from the United States, and he writes to us to get up in the morning and to say, I'm grateful, especially for us that we have such a great exalted goal in our life. What an opportunity we have now to serve the Creator. Let's rejoice with that and not wait until we feel good, but rather from the greatness of this occasion, that will make us happy. That in itself testifies to the height of our work, that friends can feel this way and connect to that around the world, each and every day, each and every moment.
Sì, amici, dopo aver sperimentato nelle decine questa gioia, questa grande...
Yes, friends, after we felt in the tents this joy, this power to serve our great King, let's enter a silent workshop. Let's enter a connection in one heart as one man and feel the Creator there between us. Silent workshop, let's enter a connection in one heart and feel the Creator there. Hello, we are reading from the writings of the last generation. We can find these writings in the articles of Bala Sulam. We're continuing with the heading, A Call for the Chosen Ones to Study Kabbalah. And you can find it in our sites and in the writings of Bala Sulam. The heading, A Call for the Chosen Ones to Study Kabbalah from Bala Sulam. I, the writer, know myself and my place, that I am not among the finest in the human race. And if one such as I today has labored and found all this in the concealed books within our cabinets, there is not a shadow of a doubt that if the chosen ones in the generation delve in these books, so much of the happiness and bounty will be available for them and for the entire world. Should I read again or continue? My voice that is in the shofar, the horn, why has it come? That's the heading. I have seen all that, and I can no longer hold back. I have resolved to disclose of my observations and of what I have found written in those books regarding the conducts of correction of our destined future. And I go out and call upon the people of the world with this horn, this shofar. I do believe and estimate that it shall suffice to gather all the chosen ones to begin to study and delve in the books, so they may sentence themselves and the entire world to the side of merit.
There are no questions, so please continue. We have questions. Please.
Rav, who are those chosen ones?
Again?
Who are those chosen ones that Bala Sulam is talking about?
Apparently, those who are able to find a connection with the Creator, and therefore the whole study that opens up before them is for them as a segula, a virtue for such a connection.
What is their role in bringing the world to the scale of merit?
Well, apparently from this they learn why specifically them and what is their role.
Are we talking about those who are studying in the present or in the future that will study?
Well, let's see.
Meaning it's not us, Bnei Baruch.
I didn't say that either.
Are we not the chosen ones?
I don't know. I don't know. I, just like you, am hearing what the reader says, and I don't close any option.
You'll explain this, yes?
Well, apparently, we need to read in such a way that we are expecting something new. Please.
Part 1. The basis of my entire commentary is the will to receive imprinted in every creature. Part 1. The basis of my entire commentary is the will to receive imprinted in every creature, and which is disparity of form to the Creator. Thus, the soul has separated from him as an organ is separated from the body. Because disparity of form in spirituality is like a separating axe in corporality. It is therefore clear that what the Creator wants from us is equivalence of form, at which time we adhere to Him once more as before we were created. This is the meaning of the words, adhere to His attributes, as He is merciful, etc. It means that we are to change our attributes, which is the will to receive, and adopt the attributes of the Creator, which is only to bestow. So that all our actions will be only to bestow upon our fellow persons and benefit them as best as we can. By this, we come to the goal of adhering to Him, which is equivalence of form. And what one is compelled to do for oneself, namely the necessary minimum for one's self and one's family's sustenance, is not considered disparity of form, as necessity is neither condemned nor praised. This is the great revelation that will be revealed in full only in the days of the Messiah. When this teaching is accepted, we will be rewarded with complete redemption. I have already said that there are two ways to discover the completeness, the wholeness, either the path of Torah or the path of suffering. Hence, the Creator has given humanity technology until they have invented the atom and the hydrogen bombs. If the total ruin that they are destined to bring upon the world is still not evident to the world, they can wait for a third world war or a fourth one, God forbid. And then the bombs will do their thing, and the relics who remain after the ruin will have no other choice but to take upon themselves this work, where both the individuals and the nations will not work for themselves more than is necessary for their sustenance, while everything else they do will be for the good of others. And if all the nations of the world agree to it, there will no longer be wars in the world, for no person will be concerned with his own good whatsoever, but only with the good of others. This law of equivalence of form is the law of the Messiah. It was said about this, but in the end of days it shall come to pass, etc., And many nations shall go and say, come and let's go up. For out of Zion shall go forth the law, etc., and he shall judge between many nations. That is, the Messiah will teach them the work of the Creator in equivalence of form, which is the teaching of the law of the Messiah, and shall prove to mighty nations, meaning he will prove to them that if they do not take upon themselves the work of the Creator, all the nations will be destroyed by wars. But if they do accept his law, it is said about it, and they shall beat their swords into shovels. If you take up the path of Torah and receive the spice, very well. And if not, and if you do not, you will tread the path of suffering, meaning that wars will break out with atom and hydrogen bombs, and all the nations of the world will seek advice how to escape the wars. Then they shall come to the Messiah, to Jerusalem, and he will teach them this law.
Are there any questions thus far? Yes, Gilad.
But maybe we can understand the direction. What Messiah is he talking about? Is it a person? Is it a force? Is it a state of the nation? What is this Messiah?
Currently, it is a force that is revealed in every person. This is how people at that time should discover the upper force that is approaching them and giving them the feeling, the knowledge of what shall be at the end of the generations.
So we need to understand it as he says, Messiah in Jerusalem will teach them how to avoid wars. It's all talking about some force of connection that will reveal. And
yes, yes.
What
we are studying that we need to carry out, but we're not yet capable of carrying out, that we need to get closer to the Creator, to there is none else besides Him, and we begin to discover what He is, who He is, through equivalence of form with Him. And this is how we will reach the state that is written about here.
Now, Baal Sam, what we read in the beginning is actually saying that there are books, and in these books, everything is written. Look into them, and you'll find all the orders of history, all that's going to be, everything. And there's no one who's listening to him. And then he says, well, we have two possibilities, either a path of good to do this, or a path of terrible sufferings, world wars, atom bombs, etc.
Yes.
The question that's always asked, how do we do this in a good way?
How do we do this in a good way?
If no one is willing to hear him, then how do we go in this path of good in this way?
So the Creator needs to do some work. He nevertheless needs to be revealed to human beings and show them where the truth is.
So what remains for us to do? To ask for it to happen?
but to study and to arrange the connection between us so that it is stronger and stronger until we discover in the connection between us the truth, in which form we need to be so that the Creator will be revealed between us.
Meaning he's actually writing to us here how to connect between us and reach the correct request, the correct demand.
Yes, how to build in the connection between us a vessel in which the Creator will be revealed. Okay? Yes, Mushi?
What's the meaning that a person needs to work according to his ability and receive according to his need? What work are we talking about here?
Well, if we're talking about work, it's the work of our connection to the power and form in which the Creator can be revealed to us.
He's talking here about all the nations. What, they really have to accept such work upon them? Some imagine what work? Is it external work? There are also all kinds of periods where they tried to take this principle, and people in practice should work in this way.
Yes.
What does he mean? What is work according to one's ability and to receive according to one's need?
As much as each and everyone is capable, accordingly, he will discover the connection and the necessity for the upper force that will connect among everyone. That's it.
And he's not talking about like work that we're imagining.
No, work in connection. Work in connection between us. That all in all, this is what we need to attain, the efficiency for the state of connection.
So work according to one's ability. I need to work in connection between people as much as I can.
Yes.
And what is to receive according to one's ability? A need from where? From the connection, or is there a certain necessity that I need for my body?
I don't think this is about the necessity of the body, but rather that we need to reach in all the opportunities, in all the states that we go through, such a connection where there would be no difference, no gap among everyone. And everyone will be as one bundle, one unit, as one man in one heart.
Meaning it's not talking at all about the work. That person needs to work 8-10 hours a day.
No, this is not about that. It's about spirituality.
There's another innovation here. He's kind of like turning to the nations of the world. He's talking here that there will be wars and everything, and he doesn't mention there will be such wars that they will come to Jerusalem to study. And it'll be so bad that usually people come to Jerusalem to demand with the wars. And first of all,
well, here it already speaks about the days of the Messiah, when the upper force begins to be revealed and it pulls everyone towards him, to get closer to the Creator and get to know him. And this is how everyone begins to be in this inner work.
Now, I forgot. What is that necessity that I need to receive in order to work according to the ability of connection? What is a person missing? What's necessary for a person in order to work 100% in connection?
The knowledge of what is our purpose and how can we hold on to it and bring ourselves closer to it.
The knowledge about the purpose of creation is the necessity a person's missing?
Yes. Yes, Dudi?
Is there a Messiah for Israel and a Messiah for the nations of the world?
Every person, you might say, has his own Messiah. Because every vessel, every desire that wishes to achieve a certain form it has its own form of the Messiah, meaning to what extent it needs to rise, to what extent he needs to connect with others, what is the segula, the virtue, the remedy, what is the purpose of the development.
What is my personal Messiah?
Your personal Messiah is the upper force that an individual person receives in order to sanctify his efforts.
And what's the general Messiah?
The general Messiah is when it speaks about the whole of Israel or even the whole of humanity.
Does all of humanity have a Messiah of its own, or is Israel the Messiah?
No. Israel is not the Messiah. Israel is a part of the general humanity that needs first to attain the force that elevates them, and following them would be all the nations of the world, that they would rise. And this is how we get to know the Messiah.
So what's the difference? If humanity has its Messiah, then what does Israel contribute to the nations of the world?
There is a big difference between drawing the Israeli nation to get close to the Creator, or all the nations of the world, and in what form. First of all, Israel should be drawn to it, should be pulled, and then the nations will see, as it is written, the Lord has done greatly with those, with them. And following that would be the whole world, gradually. As we learn that the people of Israel alone, if they would return to the purpose of creation, it would be one great force. However, if all the nations of the world, if we all connect and are ready for an ascent, and the Creator does that with them, then already everyone begins to feel the general force that there is none else besides Him, and the redemption is revealed to the entire world.
If Israel are drawn to the goal first, they reach it, attain it, does the Creator operate through them, or is without any connection to that? There's a force that operates upon humanity and they're working with it.
Yes, there is a force that operates on the whole of humanity and they stand opposite it, and in that there is a special kind of development.
When does humanity need Israel? And what does it need Israel exactly? And what not? It's already operating with the other force.
Well, we will reach that, and then it will be revealed.
If possible, another question. He says, and when they receive this study, they will merit the complete redemption. What study exactly does the nations of the world need to take upon themselves?
That there is a purpose to the world and a correction of the world in order to reach its purpose. And that we, how shall I put it? That we need to learn it and obey it.
The very bit of knowing that there's a purpose, is that what's needed, or are there actions needed?
No, this is something we learn for ourselves, so that it will be clear to us what is our way in taking care of the whole world. But the whole world will advance only according to the study and taking this study upon themselves.
The study towards Israel is clear. The study around the world, what does the world need to learn?
The world needs to learn that they too should try to connect together with the good force. And Israel will constantly have to explain to them, what does it mean, the good force? Why do we have to be in a certain connection? And so on.
Thank you. What is the revelation of the upper force?
That it is clear in the mind or in the heart, or together in the mind and heart, to the people of the world, possibly to everyone, possibly to just a part of them. What is their state? What is their present state? And what is their desired state?
Are there stages of revelation, or is it revealed at once?
No, it will be in stages.
The state of the world that's on the tip of ruin, and also in everything that's going on, and also in humanity altogether, between them, is this a revelation, or are these all stages of concealment?
These are no longer stages of concealment. However, we need to realize that the general force of our nature, that is revealed to us is very cruel, brutal, and that it truly doesn't leave us, and it pushes us towards correction. This is the very same force that the Creator wishes to bring closer.
I'm asking because we always learn that the upper force is only revealed in good. It can't be revealed in disasters and bad things.
But out of them, out of these disasters and bad things, we gradually discover His purpose, that He is actually the good force. Yes.
He writes, there's both the individual and the nation will not work more than they need for their basic sustenance, and all the rest will be for the benefit of others. And if all the nations of the world agree to this, then the wars will be cancelled from the world, for no one will care for his own needs, only for others, and there will be a room for all the others. In this principle, if humanity could understand and give forth maximum and receive necessity, it will be the Garden of Eden. It will be very quickly Eden, with even intellectually, without even spiritual level. Now, I wanted to ask whether there's a parallel in the way that we followed you. I feel like we followed you because we felt, at least I felt, that there's something you didn't convince, you didn't come to convince intellectually, but something within attracted, drew us, and there's a feeling like you knew what you were talking from within you, not from your mind. And our focus needs to be to reach as fast as possible, because the moment we can feel this, we'll be able to pass it on to them. Not in words or explanations, but simply to talk, and it will pass to everyone. So what I wanted to ask is, many times our attention goes to how to explain and how to, instead of us concentrating all the forces between us to build this connection, and then you go out with that, before you waste this force, invest it in connection first of all, and it will pour out on its own.
Yes, we need to try to also show everyone, that is, first of all, to teach Israel and actualize this force in Israel, and later on with all the people in the world to do the same. And this is how we will get closer.
With that, as we say, to invest all our forces here in the connection between us, first of all, actually, when you go outside, when you try this frustration of you not succeeding, no matter how you explain, you bring the most convincing methods to explain, they'll still, if there's no connection. So the exit, when you feel frustration, helps you understand that you need to invest in connection. Because if you're going out, then it's more for the motivation that we'll receive here between us. And for us to understand that if we don't succeed here, it won't help.
Yes.
Should that be our approach, to think in that way?
Well, certainly to the extent that we build a society as it is written in the books, to this extent, we elevate ourselves and get closer to the general correction.
So we can say that we have come to a certain stage in which all the attention should be invested here. Then we'll think a little less, at least for the time being, until we manage to build this connection. I'm going to go and explain this to humanity while we're building this mechanism here.
It needs to be done at once, both this and that.
Good
morning. Rav, he writes here about the two paths, the path of suffering in its time and hastening. So who decides, actually, about will it be in its time or in hastening?
The one who's in free choice decides. Meaning each and every person and groups.
Because he writes that people were given the atom bombs, etc., but people are not aware. Yes. So will they reach a point where they will know how to choose, or
gradually what they need to know, they will know?
Out of the suffering?
I don't know. I'm not talking about the future and what will be.
What will give them the understanding that there is a choice? Where does that come from?
From them learning it from life and from us. And in such a way they will come to the understanding of where this decision has been made.
Women
From Women PT4, they're asking, how will people understand out of suffering that they need to work for the benefit of others?
Just as they understand today, out of the suffering that they need to work for the benefit of themselves.
From Belarus, they're asking, what does it mean to blow the horn of the Messiah?
To advertise, to advertise the knowledge of the correction and necessity of it. And this is to everyone.
From Brazil and Latin one, they're asking, what action should we take in order to help the world choose the good way? And what is the good way?
First of all, like Baruch Salam says, the dissemination of the wisdom of Kabbalah in all the places, in all the languages, in each and every person, as much as possible, in the broadest possible way.
From PT25, they're asking, to whom does Baal HaSulam call Israel? Those who have a point in the heart, or those who are Israeli in the corporeal sense of it?
No, of course, according to one's inclination.
Final question from Women Rehovot, they're asking, it says, and it shall be at the end of days that many nations will come and say, let us rise, because the Torah comes out of Zion, and he will judge among the many nations. What does this verse say?
That eventually, also in what we are disseminating all around the world, also in it coming from the heaven, more people have, without a choice, have to correct themselves and the whole world. Otherwise, there's no future. And then, in such a way, we will come to the necessity for correction. And the Creator will correct. Okay?
No.
We learn in order to develop a vision, the vision of Bnei Baruch. And what I see is that Kabbalists, and you especially, the more you correct yourself, you gather around you points in the heart. It's a kind of a drawing of an attraction, like the friend said. We feel that there is truth there. So I'm asking a question for the future. The question is, when we will connect and correct ourselves, this is actually in order to attract people who do not have a point in the heart. So there's a new stage here, and the entire system has corrected itself, but it was drawn to it with the point in the heart. But we, as a large generation, our vision is to connect. That's what I hear, indeed, to connect between us as quickly as possible, because this will actually draw people who do not have the point in the heart. They might be drawn to us and hate the fact that we speak Kabbalah. It's this kind of a feeling that the very connection of the last generation is what will draw those who do not have a point in the heart.
I don't think they will have rejection from the wisdom of Kabbalah, which talks all in all about connection and the necessity for connection. And it actually helps every person
It helps every person actualize the purpose of creation. So we need to connect, but also have this intention or this knowledge that those who will be drawn to us are not the people who are asking, what is the purpose of my life? That the point
Yes and no. We will see. When they come, they come. It's like everyone comes. So there's a percentage of the people that yearn only for the purpose of creation. There are part of them that are yearning for knowledge and all kinds of, yes.
Okay, that's another question, because there's also the feeling that we as Bnei Baruch will have to be divided into multiple departments, and each one of them will have to serve another population, maybe another segment.
No, I don't think that we will have to share it or split it. No. We will see. We'll get close to it and we'll see. That's still ahead. Yes, Moshe.
Every day, millions of people are exposed to our messages. Of course, we need to get better, but indeed, people do watch and they have no problem with it. The problem begins, let's say not the problem, the challenge starts in the implementation, in order to already implement what they heard. Right now, today, there's only one lane towards the implementation. A person eventually needs to have a tent, sit here, and study in the morning lessons. So the conditions for this implementation, I think, only fit unique individuals, not everyone. So my question is, do you think that in the future, the conditions for the implementation would be, I don't want to say easier, but different than what we have, or everyone will enter the same lane? Why I'm asking, in order to prepare for it. So how do you see this?
I see it that we will advertise the study, the purpose of the study, so much so in a simple and broad, open way to everyone, that there won't be a problem for each and every one to see in this how one implements and realizes himself in the broadest, best possible way. And the people of the world won't lack what's to hide and what to do. Rather, everyone will understand that the connection between everyone is what will open up the path to the general triumph.
Well, this is clear, but the form of where does a person implement this knowledge that he received? He received from us some knowledge, but today the implementation is very difficult.
No, so we don't need in such a way to also draw them towards implementation. Rather, once or twice a week to hear an order of discussions that from which they will receive an impression, excitement, knowledge of what's important to a person in order to exist and advance towards the plan, the desirable state. And that's it.
So you nevertheless believe that the study should always be study. There are no other forms to implement the connection.
You can take from the world all kinds of forms of study. Eventually, there's one who talks and there's one who hears. That's it. You are already here on chairs in this place for years. Well, invent something else.
That's the challenge. That why we're gathering towards the Congress. Also, we want to search, and we don't know what other form we can have.
I don't think we need to reinvent new forms in our state, in our world. We are not finding anything special.
Because it's a wonder. You need to know that after people come to us to study in different courses, people either come to study here every day or they don't come at all. I was also thinking, once a week, what's the problem according to the number of people who approach us? We should have millions of people who come and study once a week. But no, either they study every day or they don't study at all. It's a wonder. We don't know how to... There's nothing in the middle. Either a person comes or he quits. We don't have another form, another framework, another environment. We didn't manage to build such an environment where we can hold people there that are not willing to come and study every day. There's no such thing that a person doesn't study every day. Either he studies every day or he's not with us.
I hear. Well, that's the truth. For the time being, we can just build something that is...
We radiate such an atmosphere where if you're not with us every day, there's no point in searching. You're not going to get anywhere. So that's what I'm saying. If a person is not capable of it right now, and there are tens of thousands, millions of people who can't do it every day, how will they implement the method?
It probably needs to change to a certain form, in what way, and by what states. I can't say.
What needs to change? We need to change, our form needs to change, or they need to change?
We. It all depends on us. But we don't know what form needs to be.
We don't know.
That's it. That's why, as much as we see before us half a step or one step ahead, then we advance in it. And then we see this takes place or not.
So this form has not yet been revealed.
No. What's happening next, Dudi? Questions here? Okay.
Rav יקר, בוקר טוב. בלגלי.
Dear Rav, good morning.
בוקר טוב. שואל ככה.
Havzullah is asking, how will the religious people, Muslims, Christians, Jews, etc., and dictators be able to be convinced? How can we convince humanity according to our dissemination that we need to change?
From the reading and the study of our materials, we need to see what state we need to be and what state we're in now, and what is the path from the current state to the corrected state. And that's how we will exist. That's how we will exist. Mac 25.
Здравствуйте, учитель. Вот здесь в конце статьи пишет, и придут к Машаху в Иерусалим. А почему Иерусалим он раскрывает?
He writes here that the nations of the world will come to Jerusalem. Is this revealed only in a certain part of our desire?
Well, that's how in a literature kind of way it is called in such a way. Jerusalem. Jerusalem is the special place in the ladder of degrees.
Kiev 1.
Да, дорогой Раф, вот сейчас мы находимся в такой ситуации в мире, когда эти слова Бааль-Сулама.
Dear Rav, right now we're in such a situation where the words of Baal HaSulam about a third or fourth world war are very relevant. This is what it sounds like. And indeed, we see that it's the truth. These are not some games. But what should people hear every day in order to move away from that state? Because we see they're only getting closer to such a state.
люди должны видеть в словах Баля Цулама
People need to see in the words of Bala Sulam
точное указание на желательные действия, которые
precise instructions to the spiritual actions that we need to do.
Тайну творения.
For them to be revealed the secret of creation. And then everything will work out. That's what we're working towards.
Bala Sulam writes, what we read now, that each one should only take what he needs for his necessary existence, and the rest of his actions should be to benefit others. How can people change so much in the world? How can we depict this, that truly such an inversion will take place in them so that they can operate in such a way? That anyone that today wants to use some nuclear weapons will change and start caring for others. What needs to happen with them, and how can it even happen?
It's all from above. Everything is from above.
Это все будет, но это все не так, как нам кажется, когда это придет к человеку.
It will all be, but not as it appears to us. It will come to a person from above.
В голову человека другие мысли. И люди так начнут.
The Creator will put in one's mind other thoughts, and people will start operating this way.
Ты же вчера по-другому думал. Он даже не поверит тебе.
So much so that if you were to tell them that yesterday you thought completely differently, he won't believe. He won't believe you.
Например, или человек пишет, например, или выдает что-то минимальное.
If a person, let's say, writes something or brings out something, a minimal, some piece of knowledge to the world, what is the minimum that we need to give them every day in order to bring closer the good state? What kind of understanding should we bring people every day?
Между собой совещаться и проверять на какой-то группе.
Here, we need between us to think of getting the council to relate to a certain group and then take it out to the world only after that, so that the world won't have rejection of what we're presenting them.
In general, about what Moshe was asking, there is a method. We get together in the lessons. We have 10s. Eventually, should we bring everyone to this state, or give them a simple training, a simple understanding, as Bala Sulam writes, only care for the necessity and for the benefit of others? What, nevertheless, should we give the masses, not to those who are like us, that are in the lessons each and every day?
Понимание о том, что наше злое начало, наш эгоизм отталкивает нас друг от друга и является причиной.
First and foremost, we need to give them the understanding that our evil inclination, our ego, is rejecting us from each other, and it is the reason for all of this suffering that we feel.
Это первое. Второе, что этот эгоизм.
That's the first thing. Second is that
that's the first thing. The second thing is that the ego cannot be corrected any other way, not by any political or economical decisions.
Что мы объединяемся и
only by connecting,
внутри себя раскрыть точку, которая соединяет каждого с остальным.
And we just want to discover those points that connect each and every one with all the others.
Мы начнем сближаться друг с другом. И в этой мере
in such a way we will start to come closer to one another. And to that extent, we will start to feel how this nearing saves us, raises us upwards above all of nature.
Все, да? Так. Ну ладно, Кроатия. Good
morning. Good morning, dear friends.
Morning.
He writes in the beginning, I, the writer, know myself and my place, that I'm not among the finest in the human race. And he's actually the finest. Why is he saying that he's not among the finest?
He talks the truth because he sees himself as being towards the purpose of creation and still far from it. He still sees himself as far from it, and that's how he sees it.
Holland.
Good morning, dear Raf.
Morning.
How good is it when a war breaks out?
No.
No. War is never a good thing.
So, should we work to avoid a war?
Ken?
Yes. So, if a war is there, is that not from the good that does good to bring us, let's say, to the Messiah, that the Messiah can teach us? Shouldn't we be thankful for a war?
The Creator doesn't choose wars. He places humanity in a network of connections, and the humanity, to the extent that it understands and takes upon itself the laws of creation, it leads itself to either good or bad.
Can we be saved, let's say, from war if we are, let's say, partially accepting the path of Torah? Let's say only B'nai Baruch. Will we be saved from the war, or does the whole world needs to accept the whole path of Torah to avoid the war?
לא. לא. זה חייב להיות הכרעה של כל אחד ואחד שבעולם.
This has to be the decision of each and every person in the world.
Does that mean that if that decision is there, Raf, are you saved then from the war?
כן, כמו שכתוב.
Yes, as it's written. Turkey 8.
Yaradanın niteliği sevgi eylemi, Yaradanın niteliği sevgi, eylemi ihsan etmek ise neden savaşla yok olacaklarını kanıtlayarak ulusları korkuyla yasasını
kabul. If the nature of the Creator is that He's good and does good, why does He lead the nations to accept His law through fear from annihilation and war?
This is the plan of creation, which the Creator chooses for us, so that we are able in such a way to understand all the good and all that there is in creation better. And then we need to see that before us we're always at a crossroads, one way or another. And we can always choose the good path.
Новосибирск.
Да, если человек пренебрегает в чем-то насущно необходимым, то как это ограничивает его?
If a person slights his responsibility, how does it limit him in the work of love of others? Does it limit him?
Yes.
Latin 4.
Latin 4.
Maestro,
yes.
La tendencia que vamos desarrollando
The inclination we develop in the study is our development. Can our development in the spiritual study exempt us from taking the path of suffering, or do we need much more work to reach the point of avoiding this suffering?
No, we are advancing in the path of Torah, as we call it, in the way of good, in the path of light. And we want to circumvent these sufferings and to reach the good connection between us in a good and nice way, to draw upon ourselves the force of good, the force of connection that's in creation.
Latin 1.
Latin 1.
Buenos días, Raf. ¿Qué significa estudiar para un cabalista? ¿Y cuál es la diferencia con las materias del mundo?
What is the meaning of learning for a Kabbalist, and what is the difference between this and learning materials of this world, like math and physics and history?
When we study the wisdom of Kabbalah, we are learning about the forces that work on us and how we can activate them in return. And here, it's the good purpose that can be before us that we can come closer to the implementation, meaning to draw our force from the purpose of creation, and through it ascend and pass a lot more of the upper light, the positive force, to our world. And in this way, we can draw all the people of the earth to it.
If we need to explain, do we need to explain when the generation of the Messiah begins and when it ends?
Could be. What do you mean if we need? If they ask. So we see, according to the development, the way we study, that if we need it, so we pass it onward to the students. Yep. Women, Ukraine too.
Kirov, it is written here that when he begins to study these books, they have to sentence themselves to the side of merit. Do we have to do it in practice, or is it inner work?
It's inner work. It's inner work, and every person needs to demand it of himself.
Shouldn't we bring people to it?
Partially.
No.
If I may, another question from a friend. Thank you, Dilov. In your answer to Vlad, I heard that people will hear exact instructions to actions in the words of Bala Sulam to reveal to them the purpose of creation. What instructions will they hear?
That everyone needs to connect.
Thank you. Thank you, Rav. There was a discussion before with Michael that there can be a situation where people study the wisdom once a week in some way, that a platform should be revealed. I can't understand how this can happen. It's also against what Bala Sulam writes, that people have to come to a state where they work only for others all the time, except for their necessities. How can we study once a week yet uphold this rule.
We need to think about it and then have a discussion about it and hear the thoughts of the friends and decide.
I'm asking more internally. Is it possible that a person will be dedicated only to that extent to it, because in terms of the truth or in terms of what we see, is that either if a person believes it, then he feels like he has to give everything. That's what the law says, the spiritual law that he feels. That's why I can't understand how it's possible to have a study framework. I mean, it's either that everyone comes to that framework of study, or, like Michal said, they're not with us. The question that we can't let go of is, what is the path of Torah?
The path of the Torah is that a person in each and every moment receives the Torah.
Because it's each and every moment, then if we think about the whole world and also about each individual, we have to understand how to shift the world to the path of Torah. I don't think we can take even one step and say, well, scrutinize how it works, because it also contradicts our way. Because if we wait to reveal what is the way of Torah, it'll come by the way of suffering.
So what do we do?
So I want to understand everything that Baal HaSulam writes. If we can't come through the writings to understand how the world has to come in a good way, and we have to understand it and walk in that direction. How do we do it?
Still, we must try each time more and more. Nothing else to do.
Thank you, Rav.
כן, ולפני שנעבור לחלק השני של השיעור, יש לנו הודעה.
And before we move to the next part of the lesson, we have an announcement. Dear friends, Sunday, June 30th, there will be a World Unity Evening. It will be broadcast in the Aravut system and on Svivat Tova. A link for the registration was sent and will be sent again. We'll move to the next part of the lesson and we'll sing a song.
Reuniendo nuestro clic, dibujando en conexión, ascendimos sin razón, como notas del amor, instrumentos del Creador. נמתח כף קשר כמיתר, לעשרה צליל נוצר, מוויתור לנתינה, ממעשה וכוונה, נשמע שוב את קינו דוד מגור הלב. Let's sing as one, and we'll see how love will cover all the crimes as we unite, walk together from the darkness to the light. La 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 la, la 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 la.
השיעור מבוסס על מאמרים מהספר כתבי רבש. את הספר ניתן לרכוש באתר kab.co.il או בטלפון 1-700-509-209.
אנחנו קוראים בספר
We are reading in the writings of Rabash, letter number 36. Letter number 36 in the writings of Rabash and in the Arvut system.
איגרת ל"ו. בעזרת השם, ערב חג סוכות, תשי"ח.
Eve of Sukkot, October 9, 1957, Manchester. To the friends in the Holy Land, may they live forever. This week, I received 2 letters from, and regarding his question, I will answer privately. In general, our sages said, anyone who is idle with the eulogy of a sage should be buried in his life. We should ask, why does he deserve such a harsh punishment? We should know that idleness always stems from absence of deficiency. Only there is there idleness. But where there is a deficiency, there are always movements in order to seek advice how to satisfy the lack. This is why, specifically one who does not feel any lack in the departure of the sage, it is apparent in the eulogy of the sage when he is idle in the eulogy of the sage. The question is, why does he not feel the lack in the departure of the sage? It must be said that during the sage's life, he also did not receive anything from the sage. So he does not feel any lack upon the sage's departure. This is why he should be buried in his life, meaning during the sage's life. It is not necessarily now that he is not all right, as he is idle in his eulogy. Rather, back then he was already not all right. This is why buried in his life means during the life of the sage. However, there is a cure to all this. Conversely, one who degrades a wise disciple, there is no cure to his plight. In other words, if he does not settle for being idle with the eulogy of a sage, but says that he is standing on the same degree with the sage, in connection, there is no greater degradation to a wise disciple than this. And our sages said, there is no cure to his plight. Instead, he keeps falling lower and lower until he shows to everyone his true form, meaning that his Torah becomes to him a potion of death. My general answer is that the festival of Sukkot explains all the questions, even the hardest and worst. For it is known that Sukkah is the shadow of faith, and with respect to the judgment, its shade must be bigger than its sun. It is also known that the sun implies knowing, and the moon implies faith. It is, as our sages said, Israel count by the moon, and the nations of the world count by the sun. That is, each time we see the sun, and that it is more than the shade, we must cover more so that the shade will be more than the sun.
בכדי שצילתה יהיה יותר מרובה. ואם האדם בעל זוכה,
and if one is rewarded and does not add shade on his own, there is mercy on him from above, and the sun is covered for him. But then a person becomes angry because he understands otherwise. According to the person's reason, if he has sun, he wishes to have more sun. But my thoughts are not your thoughts, and he is given more shade. And if a person overcomes the shade, he is given a sun, and then he must add shade. If he does not add, he is given shade from above, and so forth, until he is rewarded with eternal dvekut, adhesion. However, we must exert excessively to receive the shade and say it is a holy shade, that all this shade came from above and not from the Sitra Achra, that it was given so he would be able to assume faith. At that time, it is called shadow of faith, and it is holy, as in, the ways of the Lord are straight, the righteous walk in them, and the wicked, etc.
זה נקרא צילה דמהימנותא, וזה קדוש. ועל דרך כי ישרים דרכי השם, צדיקים ילכו בה, ופושעים וכו'.
This is the meaning of making the thatch from the waste of barn and winery. Baal HaSulam explained that Goen, barn, comes from the words Ger Anochi, I am a foreigner, and Yekev, winery, comes from the words Nokev Shem Hashem, mentioning the name of the Lord. To interpret the words of Baal HaSulam, the thatch is the shadow of faith, called faith above reason. This is opposite to reason, for reason brings him into waste, to barn, and to winery. That is, from the perspective of reason, the way the corporeal eyes see it, there is room for waste of barn and winery. From this in itself, he makes a shadow and sits under it. That is, he makes for himself a seat out of all those lowest and worst things, as through the waste he observes the mitzvah, the commandment of Sukkah. Most importantly, he derives joy from this mitzvah because faith above reason is called the joy of mitzvah. It follows that all the quandaries and questions that exist in reality are corrected in the Sukkah. For without them, it is impossible to make a thatch. And one must be a good guest in this regard and say, all that the landlord has done, he has done only for me. That is, one must say with the mouth that everything that is happening in the world, that there are people who suffer and are mistreated, is only so that I can receive the good, meaning to keep faith. Even though I see the bad in people, it is in order to be able to assume the burden of the kingdom of heaven. Moreover, it is to say that others will suffer pain only so I can receive. In truth, it is hard to say this. But if a person works specifically in order to bestow contentment upon his Maker, then he himself is completely inconsequential. Instead, everything is only for the Creator. At that time, if the person does not stand in the middle, then everyone can say that when he says, the landlord has troubled himself only for me, meaning so that I could continue with the work of faith, is only for the Creator and not for himself. When a person is concerned with pleasures, it is difficult to deceive oneself and say that the whole world was created only for him. But when a person is concerned with the sake of the Creator, it is not so difficult to believe, since the self is completely inconsequential. It follows from all the above that the thatch, called shade, is made specifically from the waste of barn and winery. This is the meaning of what we say in the prayer inside the sukkah, and to take refuge from rain and torrent. It means that faith saves a person from all the harm doers, since harm doers are alien thoughts and alien views, and faith is built specifically on waste. Only in this way is there refuge from rain and torrent. Otherwise, one follows the trends of the world. The torrent is something that sustains the earth. Since people who are still nourished only by reason, and only reason sustains them, where reason does not reach, they cannot hold out. And this reason keeps those people still. But one who wishes to be as a vegetative must not accept this reason as support, since that torrent is unsuitable for one who wishes to walk on the path of truth. And if a person fails and takes support from that reason, he will immediately suffer a descent and a fall to the bottom of hell. However, still, can keep them and do not suffer any falls. This is why they always seek reason to support their work. In order not to fail in this reason, which is called torrent, there is power in the above-mentioned thatch. As we say, to take refuge from rain and from torrent. This settles the questions, and may we be rewarded with the shadow of faith. In order to understand the matter more clearly, I will copy for you an article from a letter of Baal HaSulam for you to delve in and nourish your souls. These are his words. And by the way, I will clarify for you the meaning of the charity for the poor, which is so praised in the Zohar and the Tikkunim and by our sages. There is an organ in man with which it is forbidden to work. Even if the smallest of the small desires to work with it still exists in man, that organ remains afflicted and stricken by the Creator. It is called poor, for its entire sustenance and provision are by others working for it and pitying it. This is the meaning of the words, anyone who sustains a single soul from Israel, it is as though he sustains an entire world. Since the organ depends on others, it has no more than its own sustenance. And still, the Creator regards it as though he sustained an entire world. That this itself is the entire blessing of the world and everything in it, multiplied and completed solely by the force of that poor soul, which is sustained by the work of other organs. This is the meaning of, and he took him outside and said, now look toward the heavens. And he believed in the Lord and reckoned it to him as righteousness. That is, by taking it outside, there was some desire to work with this organ. This is why he forbade him the work. This is why it was said, now look toward the heaven. At the same time, he was given the promise of the blessing of the seed. They are tantamount to two opposites in the same subject. Since all his seed, which is to be blessed, necessarily comes from this organ. Thus, when he is not working, how will he find the seed? This is the meaning of, and he believed in the Lord, meaning that he accepted those two receptions as they were, both the complete prohibition on the work and the promise of the blessing of the seed. And how did he receive them? This is why he concludes, and he reckoned it to him as righteousness, meaning as the form of charity for a poor person who is sustained by the work of others. This is the meaning of the two sayings of our sages. One person thought that the Creator would treat him with righteousness, meaning keep and sustain him without work. And one thought that Abraham would act with righteousness toward the Creator. Both are the words of the living God. For prior to the correction, that organ is in heaven, and the charity is counted for the lower one. At the end of his correction, it is achievable. And then the tzedakah is counted for the upper one. Know and sanctify, for it is true. Thus far, his words. I ask that each of you will write to me the meaning of the above words of Baal HaSulam, for it is a wonderful article. And now let us arrange the work of the winter, which is the time of working during the long nights. Thus far, I have been speaking from the perspective of the left, called the left rejects. This requires a lot of work and toil to overcome all the obstacles and all the alien views and thoughts. However, we should also engage in the right. As our sages said, make your Torah teaching permanent and your work temporary. Torah is regarded as right, which is wholeness. A person should regard himself perfect with virtues and noble qualities. He should adapt the works in Torah and mitzvah as is suitable for a whole person, as much as one can. However, one must not regret it if one is unable to complete one's will. That is, if a person wishes to do plentiful good deeds and study of Torah, but cannot, he should not regret it, but be happy while working in the right. He should be content with whatever he can do and praise and thank his name for being able to do a small service to the king. Even a minute a day or a minute in 2 days should be to him like finding a great treasure. And even if it is a simple deed, meaning without vitality, he should still try to be happy and derive vitality from being allowed to serve the king. This is how he should be during the study, meaning whole. This is regarded as Torah, which is right, as it is written, on his right was a fiery law. For every opportunity, one must praise the Creator. I heard from Baal HaSulam that with the praise and gratitude one gives to the Creator for nearing the Creator, one draws the light of His holiness below. A person should feel whole, and then he is regarded as blessed, and the blessed clings to the blessed. But when a person regards himself as cursed, the cursed does not cling to the cursed. As our sages said, The cursed does not cling to the blessed, as our sages said. Therefore, you must regard yourselves as whole while performing Torah and mitzvot, commandments. At that time, you must not find any flaw in you. As it is written, anyone in whom there is a flaw shall not approach. This is called Torah, meaning wholeness.
But
only Torah is also not good. As our sages said, he who engages only in Torah is as though he has no God. As it is written, and many days to Israel without a true God. Days is regarded as wholeness, meaning Torah. Many means that he engages only in Torah, and then he is without a true God.
It
is so because in the left, specifically this work guides on the path of truth. This is the meaning of it is good to study Torah together with conducts, for toiling in both mitigates iniquity. And any Torah without work is eventually annulled and induces iniquity. You might ask, why does Torah alone not only not mitigate, but also induces iniquity? The reason is that if we do not walk on the path of truth, we remain as, if they are not rewarded, a potion of death. And that work, discerned as the kingdom of heaven, only this discernment is regarded as work and labor. This is why our sages said that specifically toiling in both mitigates iniquity. But do little work and plentiful study. Make your Torah permanent and your work temporary, because most of the day a person must walk on the right, and a little bit of the day in the work of purity in mind and heart. I will end my letter with hope that we will be rewarded with eternal adhesion with His name. Baruch Shalom, son of Baal HaSulam.
No, my התרשמות.
Well, what's your impression? Yes.
תודה רב. זו הרגשה נפלאה.
Thank you, Rav. It's a wonderful feeling. I have two questions. If a person is rewarded and does not add from himself a shade, and he's pitied from above, and the sun is covered for him, what does it mean that he's rewarded?
That, I guess, before it, he did something good.
Can a person create the shade for himself?
I guess this is why he made the efforts. Yep.
When he relates in the end that studying Torah with good conducts, can you explain what is good conduct or the way of the land? Because I understood that only Abraham had it.
No, there are a lot of definitions, and not only Abraham.
איך אנחנו צריכים להסתכל על זה?
How should we look at it?
When we'll get there, we'll understand what he's talking about.
Thank you.
הוא רושם פה שצריך גם להתייגע בתורה.
He writes that we have to both labor in Torah and also do some work so it doesn't become an iniquity. What is the work that he means we have to do?
All in all, the work that the Torah means.
Which is work in connection?
That's part of it. Some yes, some no.
Ken. No.
What's the difference between taking support from reason and taking cover in the shade of reason?
Again?
What does it mean to take support from reason?
Reason.
Yeah. And to take cover in the shade of reason.
Let's ask everybody. Say exactly where you see it in the source and what we're asking.
He says to take cover in the waste of barn and winery, which is the person's shade. So he describes, he explains that difference, that we have to come to it. He writes there that a person works on it. Well, okay. Well, that's a question.
Yes, Gilad.
He explains that taking support from reason means to remain still. And the other option is to turn it into thatch and work above reason. And that's the difference between still and vegetative.
Good.
That's it.
Nice. More? Yeah.
It's also written afterwards. We have to make great efforts to accept the shade and say that it is a holy shade. So that's also something worthy.
Ken.
Yes.
Oh, kama. No.
Wow, look how many. Yes.
הוא כותב פה מטעם.
He writes here,
אבאר לך סוד הצדקה למסכן.
I will explain to you the charity for poor man, that there's an organ that's forbidden to work and others nourish it. What does that mean?
I don't know. There's such an organ that you can't work with. What?
I don't know.
I don't know. There are many organs in a person's body. If you're speaking about a spiritual organ, so I don't know.
He writes a lot about it, that others should nourish it, sustain it, and there's a contradiction here. You have to maintain two things at once, and so on.
Everything's nice. The question is what we're talking about. If not in anatomy, so what is he speaking about?
That's what I'm asking. There's the example of the tying of Isaac, that with him you'll have a seed, and then you have to slaughter him and offer him, sacrifice him. So what is this about?
We have to locate that organ that specifically, how does he write? That
אשר איבר אחד ימצא באדם, שאסור לעבוד עמו חס ושלום, אפילו אם מצויר עוד באדם רצון דק לעבוד עמו, נשאר איבר זה כנגוע ומוכה אלוקים. ונקרא מסכנה שכל זכות קיומו ופרנסתו בעולם הוא שאחר.
He writes that the organ will only find nourishment if the others work for it. So what do you mean? He means that this organ itself can't bring a person to the correction, but only when others accept his work and in this way finish the correction.
Is it a specific desire? What does it relate to?
Why is that important? Let's say, like, you have organs in your body, in your hand, in your leg. Doesn't mean anything.
Okay, thank you.
So,
that's it. Yes, Dudi.
How can we pray and at the same time be in wholeness?
Specifically because the prayer is big and deep and broad and exalted, by that a person can be in wholeness. He has a connection with the Creator, and he understands that without the Creator he's worthless and he can't reach anything, that all of the solutions are in the upper force, and from that comes the wholeness.
So there are no two opposites here.
Why opposites? One holds the other.
He wrote here in the beginning of the letter, why does he not feel the deficiency in the departure of the sage? But we have to say that during the life of the sages, he also didn't receive anything from the sage. So how does the disciple know if he's receiving or not receiving from the sage?
According to the feeling of the student. That's how all the writing we see here in this letter. It's all according to what a person understands, how a person puts these things together.
That's according to his feeling, if he's receiving or not, but is he really receiving?
I don't know. If he reveals his deficiency, if he reveals his adhesion and fills the deficiency, what he does it for what?
He brings here a verse from our sages, he who despises a wise disciple, there's no cure to his plight. What does it mean to degrade or despise, have contempt for a wise disciple?
That he disregards his connection with the Creator, I guess.
Whose connection?
Of the student of the wise, that they say about him that he's the student of the wise.
כן.
He says here that to be in the right is the Torah and its wholeness, and then he explains that if he engages only in Torah without work, it can be the potion of death for him. He writes that any Torah that there's no work with it is cancelled and causes iniquity. What is it in our work? A situation where there is Torah but no work that can bring us that it may become a portion of death for us.
That we don't see a result, that we're building the Torah inside us. We don't see that from it comes a state which is a place to work.
In the previous part, you said that our work is work in connection.
Yeah.
It means that if someone takes all his strength from the learning, from the study, and appreciates less the work in connection, can this study lead him to the opposite of where he should go? A complete disconnection from spirituality?
Yeah. That's a potion of life and potion of death. Yes.
By nature, a person wants the light of the sun, the warmth, the pleasantness. But he writes that when he receives the light of the sun, he should look for the holy shade. And also, when he is not in wholeness, he should look for the wholeness. It's like he's directing us to constantly search for the place of connection with the Creator. If He gives me the sun, I have to hide it and look for the connection with Him in a form of bestowal. And if He gives me shade, I have to look for the connection with Him in a manner of wholeness. There's a matter of kind of completing what He gives me, responding correctly to what He gives me, connecting to the friends, and through the connection, to perform the opposite action of my natural self, to the original will to receive. How? In every state, if I get a sun or a shadow, how do I always return to the friends? How do we remind ourselves? It's like reformatting ourselves all the time, reminding ourselves to return to the friends, to the connection, in order to be in connection with Him. How do we create this formatting at every state and not miss out?
That's a different part of the work. When I come to the Creator with my plea and want to be with Him, by this, I bring the Creator closer to me, or myself closer to Him. Ask it again.
I'm asking this. If Judaism works according to the light of the moon, we yearn to receive the indirect connection with the Creator, but rather through the reflected light.
Yes.
And we want to increase that yearning. And sometimes there are situations where you find yourself after a state where you received a chance for yearning, but you weren't there at all. You forgot. And you yearned for the light of the sun, for the state of Gadlut or greatness. How do we not miss out on states? How do we help each other constantly be in yearning and deficiency for the Creator and increasing that yearning?
When we reach that longing to the Creator, then we already come close to Him. We already understand that this is our purpose. And if we... I guess I didn't understand the question.
How do we help each other increase the yearning, intensify the yearning?
That's by man will help his friend. Show the friends that increasing the yearning to the Creator, the desire, the tendency, the passion towards Him, that's the most important. That is the most important. There's nothing else. The rest is something the Creator does.
Recently, we've been studying about being humble. Is that something important so we don't give a grip to the external ones? How do we work with two things? Setting an example and walking humbly. Because on the one hand, I want to set an example to the friends. On the other hand,
each one must show the other as much as he is in a state, a special state.
How, by setting an example to each other, do we not give a hold to the external one? So I'm working for the public, because it's this kind of how do we do this?
If we work together and want to help each other, then we don't fall to the external ones. That's what I'd say.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
He writes that if he only engages in Torah, then he is without a true God. The question is, what is the place of the work?
The work.
The work is, it is good to study Torah with the way of the land, with the right conduct.
Yeah.
So it means that the work is connected to the way of the land or to conducts.
You have to make efforts in trying to implement the Torah, to realize it.
How do we approach that yearning? It's not only yearning for the light in the Torah, but
we need to be, first of all, connected between us and love your friend as yourself as much as possible. And by that connection, each one can supply the others with an approach to the light of the Torah, access to it. From this, we will be rewarded in this common connection between us where we discover joy. That's called the joy in the Torah.
And in this, we will find the way of the land. It's there already?
Again?
The way of the land is in that path of Torah?
Yes.
Ken.
I feel like I have to ask something about Rabash. I read the article and he writes about every iota in the feeling. He can open it into a complete article. It stuns me. Who is Rabash? From where does he write to us? What is this for us?
The Rabash, the eldest son of Baal HaSulam, which was constantly adhered to him. Not physically. He was just constantly adhered to him. And he would protect him. And I have no words. As much as he worked in it, in complete devotion of the soul.
Another question about Rabash. How do we come closer to him and adhere to him more?
How to adhere to him more? Only by his writings, even though that is also in a lot of concealments, but only in this way. Yes.
תודה רב יקר. רבש כותב,
Rabash writes, I ask that each of you will write to me an interpretation of this article by Baal Sulam because it's a wonderful article. How often did Rabash give such assignments?
Never did. He never gave it to us. We never wrote such things.
Can it be good for us to try to write such an article?
Right. Yeah, right.
Thank you, Rav.
That's it. We will end the lesson here. Yeah.
We have 3 announcements. For conclusion, dear friends, we recommend to each 10 the 3 following tasks. 1, read the excerpt we will read tomorrow from the writings of the last generation. 2, write concisely and in your own words the key points from the article. 3, prepare questions for tomorrow's lesson. Another announcement. You're invited to a World Unity evening on June 30th, 6 p.m. Israel time. The event will be broadcast in the Arvut system and Sivat Tova. Registration link was sent and will be sent again. The broadcast today at noon, the noon lesson recorded. 5:30 reading the study of the 10 Sfirot, 7:30 reading the Zohar. This concludes the lesson. Have a good day and a great night.
Hello, we're reading from the Writings of Rabash, first volume, page 453, article Purim, that the precept, the mitzvah is until one cannot tell, doesn't know. There is no English text for that article. You can ask questions at Kab.tv and selected questions will be aired live. Article Purim, that the mitzvah, the commandment is until one cannot tell or doesn't know. Chazal said, one has to drink in Purim until he cannot tell between the cursed Haman and the blessed Mordechai. Again, Chazal said that in Purim one has to get drunk so much that he cannot tell between the cursed Haman and the blessed Mordechai. However, one cannot reach the degree of not knowing or cannot tell before he is in the aspect of knowing. And after that, you can say that you have to reach an even higher degree called not knowing. And certainly, this is a higher degree than knowing, because that we're given to keep only in Purim and not throughout the whole year. As our sages said, that a man is obligated in Purim, but not over the whole year. Accordingly, we need to understand what is this matter of knowing versus not knowing, or being able to tell and not being able to tell. Also, we have to understand the obligation from the Torah to read the portion of Zechor, remember. And Magen Avraham wrote that I think that I should settle this custom of the world. Why is it written in Torah that they should specifically read on this Shabbat? Rather, it was the sages who decided that it should be read on this Shabbat, because many people attend the synagogue, and next to Purim it is good to associate the deed of Amalek to the deed of Haman. This means that the matter of remember that Amalek did to you always applies. However, they made it a custom to read it in Shabbat before Purim in order to associate the deed of Amalek to the deed of Haman. And the reason of associating Zechor, remember, to Purim, what does that come to teach us in the work? In order to understand all of that, we have to first proceed and understand the matter of the purpose of creation. And from that we can tell what does it mean that one can differentiate between the cursed Haman and the blessed Mordechai, and what is it that one